welcome to We Three Read. I'm Sarah. I did the April Readathon called Picture This. I'm so excited about this readathon, and I'd like to thank Jillian from Novel Opinions for telling me about it. It was started by Shelley at Shelley Swearington and Jack at Spread Book Joy. And it's about picture books. So Aria and I read picture books all the time. We read picture books for fun and for school. When we read them for school, we read about one subject for a week, and then if Aria wants to, we'll do a YouTube video about it. There's so much value in picture books, and I love this readathon because it shows that adults can enjoy picture books too, and I'm so excited to share these picture books that I love. Shelley and Jack gave 6 prompts, and the first was friendship, and I immediately thought about Beekle. I love this book so much that my daughter owns a stuffed Beekle. The book is The Adventures of Beekle, the Unimaginary Friend. Beekle is in a different imaginary world and is not chosen yet to come down to the real world, and eventually decides on his own to come down and meet his friend. The illustrations are just beautiful, and it's a simple story about friendship. I love how it describes when they finally meet. At first, they weren't sure what to do. Neither of them had made a friend before, but after a little while, they realized they were perfect together. And I love the ending. Together, they did the unimaginable. Just a super sweet story, and the first one I thought of with friendship, and one of my favorites. The second prompt was green, which made me think of Peter Pan, who wears green. I haven't gone into it yet on YouTube, but I love Peter Pan. It is one of my favorite stories, and I have quite the Peter Pan book collection. Now, I know the original story is not a picture book, but there are now picture books of the Peter Pan story. For this readathon, I picked one of my Peter Pan books I haven't read yet. I'm not quite sure how that happened, as I usually read them when I buy them. I think it's because I bought it on vacation. I went up to the Walt Disney Museum, and I actually know exactly when I bought this book because I found the ticket inside of the book. So I went to the Walt Disney Museum on May 29th in 2010, and that's when I bought this book. And because I was on vacation, I didn't read it right away, came home, put it in my Peter Pan book collection, and didn't read it. That may seem like I don't appreciate my Peter Pan books. That is not true at all. I look at them quite frequently, and it's a beautiful book, so I have looked at it, I just hadn't read through it. What makes this Peter Pan book unique is that it's illustrated by Mary Blair, who's a pretty famous Disney artist and has a very unique artistic look. One of my favorite illustrations is of Neverland. It's just gorgeous. I have looked through this book before to look at the beautiful Mary Blair illustrations, but I didn't really pay attention to the text, and boy was I missing out. The layout is so interesting and adds to the story. He drew his sword. Amazing. I love this layout, so unique. On this page you can even see a little better how some of the words are a different color, which to me adds to that as well. Some of the Peter Pan picture books I have don't tell the story very well. Leaves out full sections, or it's a little bit choppy, but this told the story beautifully, and so I would definitely recommend this version of Peter Pan. The third prompt was home, and this made me think of a book I recently discovered through TikTok, a teacher on TikTok, and unfortunately I don't remember his name. Again, I need to start writing these down. But it's called This Is How We Do It. And this is a very, very cool book about the different places people live. How Aria and I read this book is we chose a child, and then we read just about that child all the way through. So this is where they live. This is who they live with, and so on. And so that's what made me think of home, because it showed the different homes and home life of all these different children throughout the world. The fourth prompt is quiet, and that made me think of 3 books that are all by the same author and very similar, and I couldn't choose between the 3. But these are books that are interactive and that my non-reader could sit with and entertain herself quietly while I got other stuff done. And those books are Press Here, Mix It Up, which was actually the first one we had discovered, and Let's Play. These books are interactive, and Aria loved them. After we read them a few times together, she was able to sit by herself and remember what she was supposed to do. So 5 taps on the blue, and then there would be 5 dots, and that was always so amazing to her. Mix It Up is fun because it teaches you about color combinations. So on this page there's yellow and blue. You shut the book, shake it, and then yellow and blue make green. Let's Play was actually the best one for her to do by herself because you follow the line throughout the book. When you're first reading them, they're definitely not quiet books because you're playing, and at least my kid was going, wow, when we turned a page. So not quiet while you're reading them, but provided me with quiet time to get some things done around the house. The 5th prompt was red, and I immediately thought of 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish. And actually, red to me brings many of the Dr. Seuss books to mind, like Cat in the Hat. We all know Dr. Seuss books. I love them when I was a kid. I love them now for my kids. They're fun, they rhyme, they have silly words. What more is there to say about Dr. Seuss? The 6th prompt was space, and my mind immediately went to planets and the universe, and I thought about a book that Ari and I had read for Women's History Month called Dream Big Little Scientists. Loved this book, but only one part of that book actually has to do with space, and we've already talked about it on a YouTube video, so I tried to think of something else, or a different book about space. In getting away from planets and the universe, my mind then went to the definition of space as in the area you occupy, and I thought about not being allowed in a certain space, and I thought of separate is never equal. We own 2 copies of this book because I love it so much. It has kind of a personal meaning for me. Sylvia Mendez was forced to go to Hoover Elementary School. Hoover Elementary was a segregated school for Mexicans in Westminster, California, and my grandmother went to this school too. These are difficult things to talk about with children, and picture books make it easier. Separate is Never Equal is a book I think every adult and child should read, and I hope you do. Thank you so much for this readathon. It gave me a chance to read a picture book I own and hadn't read yet, and to reread some of my favorites, and to share some that I think are just very important for everybody.